All right, we should be live on Facebook now. We're going to verify that we are live on Facebook before we get started. So hello, if you're joining us live on Facebook right now. We're just checking to make sure it looks like we're there. So welcome to the first ever Museums from Your Home live stream presented by the University of Alabama Museums. My name is Rebecca Johnson, and I am the Communications Specialist for UA Museums. And joining me this morning is Dr. John Friel by speakerphone because we had some technical difficulties with Wi-Fi and everything. These days with the COVID-19 concerns, everybody's using the internet. And so the Wi-Fi is sort of going in and out. So we're joined by speakerphone with Dr. John Friel, director of the Alabama Museum of Natural History. So good morning, John. How are you?
Hi, Rebecca. How you doing? Hopefully everyone out there can hear me. Like I said, this is our first time doing it. We are the guinea pigs for UN Museums, but we're going to be doing this every day during the week. So we hope to get most of the bugs worked out today. I'm really excited. I'm home with my family, like most of you probably are, and are looking for things to do. So what I'm going to talk about today is iNaturalist, which I think is a great way you can learn about the nature that's literally in your backyard.
Yeah, so we are on Facebook right now because, like John mentioned, like many of you, museum staff, everyone who works at UA Museums, we're home too due to the COVID-19 situation. So the Alabama Museum of Natural History, the Gorgas House Museum, the Mildred Westervelt Warner Transportation Museum, and the Jones Archaeological Museum at Mountville Archaeological Park have all closed their doors. So we decided we would try to bring the museums to you in your living room, your bedroom, your patio, wherever you're watching this. So while we are broadcasting, feel free to ask us any questions. You can leave us questions in the comments, or if you want to join the live stream, we have a link that you can click on. It should be in the description of this live stream. Let me know if it isn't, and we'll send you a link and invite you onto the live stream so you can ask Dr. Friel a question live on the live stream. It's very easy to do. You can do it either through a laptop or a desktop computer, and you can even do it through your smartphone. So it's so simple to use, and that's a good way to interact with us if you want to join us live. So, and just as a reminder, this is live, so anything can happen. So just hang in with us just in case Facebook has any issues. They and many other websites are trying their best to meet the needs of online activity at this time. So with all of that out of the way, let's get talking about the thing that we are going to be learning about today, which is the iNaturalist app. So, John, what would you like to share with us about iNaturalist today?
Sure. Well, iNaturalist, some of you may already know about it. I'm going to focus on that today. It's a free app and platform where you can engage with other nature lovers. And basically, it's a social network really for sharing and discovering nature. And I hope to at least today get people jump started. So I'll try to get you through some basics so you can start going out today. It's a beautiful day outside. It's going to be sunny all day. It's springtime in Alabama. So we've got lots of things that are starting to bloom. Animals are becoming more active. I'll show you a little eye candy today that hopefully will whet your appetite. But what I'm going to show you, some of the examples today, are things I've seen in my backyard or neighborhood just within the past 48 hours. So there's a lot of nature out there, and I guarantee you, no matter where you are in the state, even inside your homes, there are other creatures living. And this is a great opportunity for you and your families to discover those. And iNaturalist can help you do that. So today I'll basically walk you through some basics about how to use iNaturalist, maybe get started. The first thing I'm going to do, if you haven't done already, is, let me pull up my next slide here, is to point you to iNaturalist.org. If you go on there, you can sign up for a free iNaturalist account. Create a username and password. It may ask you some questions about whether you want to share your images. You can retain copyright for your images, or you could share them freely, which I generally recommend. And also you can download the iNaturalist app. There are links there where you can download a free app either for Apple iOS devices or for Android devices. And you can also do it from the website itself. And basically, when you really get up to be a heavy user like I am, I do most of my stuff online through my web browser. But well, we're started. That's where I would basically, if you can and you have the opportunity, just go directly to the iNaturalist website now. And like I said, sign up for a free account, download the app. And once you do that, you can follow along a little bit on some examples that we're doing. And even if you don't have time to do it right now, you can do it at your leisure. And we're always here. So you can always post a question to this thread on Facebook, and we'll respond to it with any questions you might have. So the first thing I'd like to point out about iNaturalist is that this kind of summarizes it. iNaturalist allows you, we're walking around today with devices which have cameras built into them, GPS capabilities, and internet connections, and you can leverage that technology to really contribute, not only learn about nature, but you can actually be a citizen scientist. The data and images that you'll be submitting potentially can be used in publications, and there now are actually hundreds of publications where scientists have actually used data submitted by the general public in their studies. So when you submit that, you get to share it to iNaturalist, and you basically get plugged into a social network where the iNaturalist community can help you identify it. Other people that have areas of expertise can help with identifying. iNaturalist also has some amazing cutting-edge technologies for using artificial intelligence and image detection to identify things based on a computer algorithm, and it's getting really good. And the other thing too is, once it's in there, you can keep track of the things that you're finding, and everything's linked. So if you click on a picture, it'll take you to information about the scientific name for that species, something about its distribution. It automatically pulls information out of Wikipedia. So you're immediately connected to a whole world of knowledge about nature. And it's this kind of interconnectivity that makes iNaturalist really exciting. And I love, some people try it and love it, and it overcomes their lives. It really becomes a hobby, and that's the case for me. And this is the perfect time of year to do it. Springtime's always a great time to get out there and do it. But since many of us are working remotely from home with our families, looking for activities we can do in our own yards and neighborhoods, iNaturalist fits that bill extremely well. Let me pull up the next slide here, and once it's up, I'll start talking about it. Rebecca, have any questions come in yet?
Well, we've gotten some comments just saying, hey, Amanda Marie says, hey there, we're excited to learn and support. So thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed learning about iNaturalist. And Kendra Abbott says, hey, Kendra Abbott knows a lot about nature and bugs and insects. And so she would be also a good person if she sticks around. If you have any questions about any of that kind of thing, she knows a lot. She can help you with any questions you may have. And Todd Hester says, hey, fam. So Todd Hester, formerly a naturalist at the Alabama Museum of Natural History. So it's good to see Todd in the comments there.
All right, so I've got the next slide up there now. So kind of the most basic concept about iNaturalist is you're generating what we call nature observations, or in this case, iNaturalist observations. And these are typically associated with media, but with the app in your smart device, you literally can pull all this information. So once you register for iNaturalist, the who you are part of that diagram, that's where that information comes from there. And you can remain anonymous. Because it's a social network, I think it's an opportunity. You can actually fill out your own profile and say something about yourself, your favorite organisms. It's a great way to interact. And I've met actually a lot of people first through iNaturalist that I've later met in person at natural events, naturalist type events in Alabama. Where you saw it, this is something your phone will record. When you install the app, it may ask for permissions to use your location. And once you do that, you will automatically record information from your phone using the Wi-Fi and GPS, in your phone. You have a camera. The camera will be the evidence. So the images that you take will serve as evidence that someone else can look at and say, yes, I think that's the plant that you think it is, or it's not. I can actually make determinations on it. It's also timestamped. So when you saw it is also recorded in that information. So what's amazing is just with a smartphone, you can collect all this information through the app. So you can literally go into the iNaturalist app, walk outside your front door or back door, and find something that's in bloom, a flower that's blooming, or maybe an insect that you find crawling around, and take a picture of it. And you're instantly plugged in because you've created an iNaturalist observation that the iNaturalist platform and its community can help you identify.
Which is helpful for someone like me who knows next to nothing about plants or bugs or anything like that. It is nice to have people, give input on what something that I found might be, because I need help in that.
Yeah, and once you have these observations, you can pull them, and you literally can pull millions of observations that are currently in iNaturalist. This is beyond what I'm going to talk about today, but I'm happy to talk about this in a future live cast about what you can do. And you can create projects with iNaturalist. And things I've done, for example, I created a project for my own neighborhood. So what you see up there now is an iNaturalist project page on iNaturalist.org that I created for my neighborhood. So any observations that come within my neighborhood are automatically added to this. So it's a great way to actually not only, although I probably have the majority of observations in the neighborhood, there are other people that are submitting observations. So it's a great way, and you can do this for your own yard. It's completely customizable. And then on the other end of the scale, I've got a project, that I'll pull up in a second, which is just in the state of Alabama. So it will pull all iNaturalist observations from Alabama. And that project is much larger, of course. It's, I think, now got over 270,000 individual observations. It's been running for a few years. Now, there it is. It popped up now. And it's a great way to see what's happening throughout the state. And it's just amazing how this has grown. When it first started a couple of years ago, I could look at every observation. Now there are hundreds, if not thousands, that'll come in on a daily basis, depending on the time of the year. So once you get really good with iNaturalist, you can create your own projects. You can limit them by geography. You can limit them by maybe I just want to see butterflies. You can create a project that does that. And there are literally thousands of existing projects, excuse me. And yeah, Becca, do you have a question?
Bill Bomar says lots of people participate here in Northwood Lake in Northport. So that's good to know that other people in other parts of the city, at least in the Tuscaloosa area, are participating in iNaturalist. Go ahead.
I'm going to say you can actually, when you get good at this, you can actually look at maps and find out where the hot spots are in your neighborhood or in your community. Like a lot of the parks, we have projects for some of the parrot parks, like Mooney Sokol here in Tuscaloosa. We have one for the UA campus. I'm based in Tuscaloosa, so most of the projects I've been involved. Actually, I created one for the Birmingham Botanical Gardens. So their project I created for them. It's really easy once you've got a skill set, you can create a new project in under half an hour. And then basically people can join in and contribute to it.
Yeah, Todd Hester says, especially for times such as these, he says, for those parents that are now homeschooling due to the social distancing and school closures, iNaturalist is a great science and nature walk activity to do with kids. My kiddos love doing nature walks and identifying plants, animals, and insects. So that's a great idea.
Oh, great. So now I want to focus a little bit on those observations. Well, how can you do it? I mentioned today I'm going to focus primarily on using the iNaturalist app. Here's a shot from my iPhone showing all the various nature apps I have on here. There's things which are specific for birds like eBird. LEPS is for moths. Seek is something I'll mention about at the beginning. Seek is kind of a really kid-friendly. You don't even have to register an account. So if you like iNaturalist, but maybe it's a little too much for you or you have young kids, Seek is a great option as well. It's kind of more like Pokemon Go. It'll actually suggest things for you to go out and find. But iNaturalist is basically about behind it. But Seek is just kind of a easier version to get people engaged with nature, where iNaturalist requires you to register and maybe a little more involvement. The other way you can do it too is you don't even have to have a phone. If you have pictures on your computer or smart device already, maybe you've got 35 millimeter slides you could scan. If you can get in digital format, you can upload those as observations. Maybe you went to Hawaii a decade ago and did some snorkeling and underwater photography. You could still use those images. You can add all that information, even if it's not in the metadata of the photograph. So It's really remarkable. People are sometimes posting old holiday photos into iNaturalist. And I figure we're titled want to look at some interesting stuff and engage people. So I'm going to go through just examples of a few things I literally found within 5 minutes of my house. Some of them literally outside my front door, things that were blooming, interesting animals. So first thing up there is this is something that I've seen almost everywhere in Tuscaloosa. It's one of several violet species we have. So most people, you could find this one probably in your own yard. Beautiful flowers. Other things that are blooming this year are several types of wood sorrel. So it'll come up in a second here. There you go. So these are another common plant that you'll see all over the place. And this reminds me that a good way to start some of your first observations, maybe start with flowering plants. They usually stay in place. And sometimes the flowers are pretty diagnostic for identifying them. So I always tell people, usually the first kind of observations I would recommend doing is finding a plant in bloom and just practice your photography to take some pictures.
Do you recommend, John, so do you have recommendations on when people take pictures? Because I've heard people say, make sure to crop it so that it's just the subject in the picture. Do you have recommendations like that?
Yeah, in general, I would try to get as close as you can and zoom in. You can always crop things later. I mean, the most important thing is you want whatever you want identified to be fill up most of the frame if possible. And if possible, not have other things. But sometimes it's impossible. You may have a perfect flower and there might be a bee in the middle of it. That's fine. You can actually use that same photo 2 times. You can do an observation for the flower and a separate observation with the same exact picture used again for the bee. I didn't point out observations because they got to be identified to a species can only be for one particular thing at a time. But I've seen photos where there might be 5, 6 more species within a photo, and that could be 6 or 7 different observations. So what's up on the screen now, this is a pink sorrel. So it's closely related to the yellow sorrel. Other things that are blooming, some of their trees are starting to bloom. So the next thing comes up here is a native tree. There we go. This is our native dogwood. So these are blooming in my neighborhood. Very distinctive. 4 white petals. There are other white flowers out there. A lot of pear trees now are blooming, but those have many more petals. And these are my own pictures. So I didn't take them from my phone. I actually took them from my camera, which does really good macro photography. But a lot of people's phones can do photography as good as this. Rebecca has a relatively new iPhone, and I've seen some of her photographs, and they're really high quality. But the other thing is just practice. It's digital. You can take as many pictures as you want, throw away the ones that you're not happy with. So the reality is I sometimes throw away 3/4 of the pictures I take and just keep the best ones that I use for my iNaturalist observations. One thing I was really excited about I discovered this week, this is literally outside my front door, is this is a crossvine flower. It's a native species of flower, grows as a vine. And the top of all my holly trees, there's hundreds of these flowers in bloom, and they're just absolutely gorgeous. Something like this would attract the hummingbirds that are coming back right now. So this is a perfect example. Everything I've shown you thus far are things literally in my yard of my neighborhood. Other things which are coming out, some of you may recognize this. Again.
Are you still there, John?
Yeah, I am. I thought there was a question. It might have just been some feedback I was getting.
Oh, no. You can keep going.
Okay. Trilliums. These are starting to come up. They'll have a red flower. You'll see these. They're typically in wooded places, but this is a case where the leaves and the shape of them is very distinctive. There's 3 leaves that are pointing in 3 different directions. Will have a red flower. These are starting to come up in my neighborhood. You don't even need a living plant. So the next thing here, I'll put up here, maybe a little quiz, see if anyone knows what this is. But with iNaturalist, you can actually photograph evidence of organisms. You could have the footprints of an animal. You could have the poop or scat of an animal. Or you could even have old seed pods. So the next thing that comes up here, I kind of give you a little hint, is something probably everyone's seen here. Come on, video. The video is lagging a little bit on this end, so
yeah.
I'll wait till it moves.
And we'll see if it pops up there. It should pop up there at some point.
I'll just move it again just to see whether it'll redo it. Yeah, I appreciate our audience bearing with us. We're trying several technologies for the first time. On top of that, there are various device issues that we've overcome. Just the internet's been going in and out for many of us. So it's working on my end. It's slow on Rebecca's end. I have no idea what it's like on our viewers' end. They may have more problems than we are.
Yeah.
Let me turn my... It doesn't seem to be advancing anymore, Rebecca. Let me try.
Okay.
I may have to.
Yeah. So Bill Bomar said in the comments that the Seek app would be a good thing for kids, but would probably quickly advance to the full iNaturalist app.
That's true. When I started, there was just iNaturalist. Okay, now it seems to be. Let me get. Okay, let me see. It'll refresh here.
I think maybe I should have started with the Seek app and moved over to the iNaturalist.
I mean, the Seek app is much newer. The reality is technically you're supposed to be 13 years old to register for an iNaturalist account.
Oh, okay.
Federal regulations. So they created Seek specifically for kids in mind because it doesn't require them to register anything. So it's completely anonymous.
Oh, okay.
So that's the other reason. If you're paranoid, don't want to share any data, Seek doesn't collect any data.
Oh, that's good to know. That's a big difference.
It'll collect your location, but it'll just use that to basically pull out observations in that area. So now we have on the screen, does anyone know what's on the screen now? And if you can see in the comments, but this is just an example of something that is not really a living plant anymore. Anyone know what it is, Rebecca? Did you see in the comments?
We don't have any comment guesses yet. They may be a little bit. Todd Hester says, let's see if I can pull it up. Sweet gum.
Exactly. It's an American sweet gum seed pod. So if you've ever seen these trees are super common around Tuscaloosa, throughout Alabama. People know about these. If you step on them with the bare foot, you will remember them.
Yeah, we got a lot of correct.
Oh, great. Well, guesses. I tried to pick something that I thought was kind of everywhere in town. Gumballs, and there's probably some local names for them as well. But that could be an iNaturalist observation. You can identify the species. So you can a lot of leaves. I'm saying animal tracks you could use. Even, like I said, scatter tracks of animals. There are guides to those. So you can actually use things like that in your backyard. I've noticed that armadillos are digging in my yard, so the little holes that they leave. So it's amazing the kind of things that people can come up with identifying that you wouldn't think someone could identify it, but it's possible in some cases to do it.
Yeah,
I have a Luna moth coming up in a second, Kendra. Don't worry. And just a few more. And then there are things that I guarantee everyone has in their yard. The next animal is everyone knows what it is, and everyone has them. They're ubiquitous. They're not native, but they're everywhere I've ever been.
All right, let's
Come on.
Let's see if it moves forward. Todd Hester says he's still got it. So.
Yeah, it hasn't moved yet. Yeah, I can tell when it moves on my end. I'll try it one more time.
Oh, there we go.
It seems to be a limit. If I stay on any one slide too long, something kind of shuts down, and I have to go back then forward again.
Gotcha. Okay.
This is your ubiquitous roly-poly. We actually have two different species of these. They're actually isopods. They're terrestrial crustaceans. But everyone I just flipped over a flower pot, and they're there. They're usually seen at night. They're out and about, but this is something everyone has. And again, perfect case for you to connect. You might know them as roly-polies. I know them as Ardilium nasudis, but they're great things. And like I said, this is something you could just flip over. Adiel knew was a pill bug. They're actually European, so Adiel may know them from. He's originally from Holland, Netherlands. So this is not a native species. It may have actually come from Europe. Yep, terrestrial isopod. The next thing I was really excited. So I found something yesterday was cool. The first time I've ever seen it in my backyard, and was really excited. Let's see if it'll pull up here. And people probably won't know what this is. Kendra might know what it is. And maybe some other people that have more of a background. Let me see if I can get this again. But I found a bunch of these. John have it. He's on there now. Come on.
Yeah, we've got some great experts in the comments section. So if you have any bug questions, if you have any paleontology questions, nature questions, there's some people in the comments section that are able to answer your questions.
So this is what I was excited about yesterday. This was a find that I'd seen this. Does anyone? Well, it's a millipede, but it's not your typical millipede. So they call these feather millipedes. I don't remember the scientific name off the top of my head. John Abbott might, but they are these really interesting millipedes that we have. There's actually at least 2 species we have in Alabama, and this is the second one I found. This is literally under a rotting log in my backyard. There were several of these, and I was really excited. We'll get the first iNaturalist record for at least Tuscaloosa County, maybe Alabama, but they may be in your backyard too. I've made a lot of discoveries of things that I didn't realize were here until I took a picture on iNaturalist, and there are millipede experts on iNaturalist. So the first one I had, a millipede expert, a professor at Virginia Tech, identified it. And when I looked at it and followed the links, I learned a little bit about the animals. They have paternal care for millipedes. You might not think insects or arthropods have parental care. These ants actually care for their young. The males do. So lots of neat discoveries. iNaturalist has been a gateway for me to learn more about not only what species are around, but their biology. Here's another thing I saw yesterday. This is something, an insect. This is a rocky bristletail. And again, this was under the same log that I flipped over. So sometimes you flip over a log, you'll find nothing. Other times there's a dozen different things. Brachycebe was the millipede I just saw. This one. And what I've got on the screen right now is a rock springtail, kind of related to silverfish. You might be more familiar with their cousins. And then coming up here is something most people recognize, and they're out and about. I've had at least half a dozen that have shown up at my front doorstep at night. I put a little black light outside my front porch. I know John Abbott's got a whole station in his backyard dedicated to attracting insects at night. And lunar moths are out. So here's a beautiful male. So he's in almost a perfect condition. He probably just emerged from his cocoon that day. And they're out looking for females. You can identify these ones by the big bushy antenna. The males are finding the females by pheromones. So they are using chemical senses. So often you can identify males and female species of the same species of moth, just by looking at their antenna. The males will generally have bigger, bushier antenna. But this is something, people, they're really common here. And like I said, I've had times where I'll get half a dozen that'll come to my house. So be looking for these. And like I said, if you have a black light you can put out, it's a great way to attract moths and other nocturnal insects. And it's something literally you can do from your own back door or front door. And even a light will attract some moths as well, but probably not as many.
That really is beautiful with the coloring and the shape and everything.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. You understand why artists are inspired by nature when you start looking at these things up close. Some of the colors, the patterns, the architecture. I mean, that moth is covered what looks like hair, actually fine scales. And then I think this is the last image I had for things, but just had to throw in a token salamander or vertebrate animal in there. And that's right. John Abbott just pointed out the lunar moth is a silk moth, giant, and they don't feed as adults. Some moths do, but silk moths, of which the lunar moth is, don't. So they get all their energy while they're caterpillars. Then they pupate, and when they emerge, all they're doing is looking for a mate. They spend all their remaining energy flying around trying to find that mate to create the new generation, or the next generation, I should say. So this is a little slimy salamander, a little juvenile that, again, flipping along I had. Sometimes they're with white spots. This one's kind of got more golden spots. But this is a very typical salamander you might find flipping over rocks and logs. Okay. And then actually I had one more. I forgot. This was the other exciting thing I found. And this was literally about 25 feet outside my front door. And I was like, so I was ready to come back inside. And I said, what's that on the ground? I thought it was actually a ball. And you'll see in a second.
Huh.
This is what they call I'm trying to think of the common name now. It is a cabbage mushroom. And it's a parasitic mushroom that grows at the base of trees. And this thing is about 10 inches across. And was literally out there, and I said, like I said, I think it's the first one on iNaturalist, at least. It was the first one I could find in Tuscaloosa County. There's been some others reported from Alabama, but again, mushrooms are coming up, so it's like you never know what you're going to find when you step in. And next week there may be something else out. A lot of these mushrooms, they'll sprout and then they die back. So it's a great, even your own yard. If you go out year round, you'll see some things every day, and then you'll see a species one day and never see it again, maybe for years. There are constantly things that are moving about. Some things are super abundant, some things are not. So there's always a challenge when you try to find things outside your house. So I already touched on a few of the next things. The next slide's coming up is just some tips. My best advice is just get good with your camera. Some people focus on trying to make a lot of observations immediately and uploading them. It's good to do a few of those, but just practice with your camera. Figure out how to zoom in with your camera, how to take sharp, focused pictures. You might need to use a flash sometimes to fill in if it's too dark. Try to get as close as possible. Again, you can always crop your pictures, but if you can fill up most of the frame with the subject of interest, they'll probably be more useful as an iNaturalist observation. Take multiple photos and just keep the best. It's really hard. You'll get better. And sometimes, you can't hold still and it'll be blurry, but, the more you practice, the better your photos that you'll get. And the better the photos are, the better the chance of them being identified in iNaturalist. And then this is harder. The last one, it'll take some experience, but depending on what you want, different organisms, you want to capture different pictures. For plants, flowers are really good, but sometimes leaves are as well. And sometimes you may need both the flower, the leaf, to identify what it is. Sometimes you might need both multiple views of things. There might be features you can only see on one part of the plant, but not another. So, and you'll develop these skill sets. But these are just some general tips that I think are useful as you begin, your experience building an iNaturalist, and you'll get better over time. It's a new skill set you're learning. So don't be discouraged. I will hold people's hand as much as I can remotely. So if people submit observations, I'll try to help identify them, maybe give you some constructive feedback. The idea is I want people to enjoy this. I enjoy nature. It's a way that I think other people, I can actually be socially distant and engage with you as a member of the University Museum staff. If the museum is open, you could come to the museum and I could talk to you face to face. But right now, I'm stuck to my home. You're stuck to your home or neighborhood, but we can still connect, and I can share my expertise with you and that of others within the UA Museum family.
Yeah, and it's good to get outdoors a little bit now,
oh, yeah.
just because we're kind of stuck in our homes, but it is good to kind of get out and move and walk around and have a little sunshine. So this is a good way to do that. But with the recommendation of 6 feet apart, but I think this would be a good way to get some exercise even.
Yeah. When I go outside to walk my dogs or take my son out for a walk, I have a 3-year-old son. I've always got my phone with me, my camera, and can take pictures. So I walking the dog a couple of days ago, I saw a salamander out in broad daylight, which is very strange on the sidewalk. So it was healthy though. I think someone had just kind of maybe disturbed it. So I picked it up and moved it, made an iNaturalist observation out of it. That crossvine, I noticed when I was out working in my yard. So anytime you're outside, there'll be all kinds of nature that nature may come to you. And this is a great way. In the past, you may have just said, oh, that's an interesting bug or flower. Now you no longer have to say, I wonder what it was. Just take a picture of it. And with the iNaturalist app and the iNaturalist platform, that social community can help you identify it, and you can plug into it and learn more about, hey, I wonder what pollinates that flower. I wonder what that insect eats. iNaturalist can help you find that information as well. So for the remainder of the time here, I kind of want to focus a little bit on the app. I work on iOS, so most of the screenshots you'll see are from my iPhone. But here again, if I pull up my iPhone and look at my little nature section of apps, you'll see the iNaturalist platform, the little bird. The bird looks a little bit different. Sometimes you'll see a chubbier bird. The old bird was a little fatter and chubbier, and they redesigned them earlier this year to be a little leaner and meaner. So if you see that, it's just, if you see a chubby bird, it's the old design. iNaturalist is about 10 years old, and they recently rebranded some of their marketing materials. But if you click on that app, this is assuming you've already downloaded the app and you've registered your account. It'll take you to the Me tab. So you'll see at the bottom of the screen, there's a little green silhouette with Me underneath it. I don't know if you can read the Me, but you can see the green silhouette. That's the default place it takes you. So once you have observations, you'll see your most recent observations in this window. So for some of the examples I showed you, you see the sweet gums in there. I didn't show you the rock bristletales in the screen that I see. And it kind of gives you a list of, and you can also see if people are commenting on them. So for the Virginia spiderwort, that's the third, actually the fourth down in my list there, someone identified it as species. I just identified it as a spiderwort. So you get a little pop-up window. So again, you'll see some similarities to Facebook and Twitter. This really is a social media platform. It doesn't have, but it's really focused on nature. So you can actually communicate with people. But that's usually the default screen you'll get to. If I clicked on any of those, it would pull up a bigger picture of the observation and then maybe some more information about it. If you switch over, so next I'm going to go to the bottommost, the Explore tab. So once you have this, you can go anywhere you want with iNaturalist app, and you can see where other observations have been made. So when this image pulls up, you'll see a map of my neighborhood. Let's see here, I'll try again, let's see. It uses Google Earth Maps. I'm just waiting for it to refresh.
So, John, the Virginia spiderwort with the comment there, will that turn into the research grade?
So I haven't talked about casual grade and research grade. It's a little more advanced, but basically, if other people agree with you, and I should say the majority of other people agree with you, your observation gets promoted to research grade. And that potentially gets pushed out to the Global Biodiversity Information System, which is used by scientists. So that's how you can kind of contribute to. But some people don't agree on things. And there actually are some things that can't be identified to species. That's the reality. There are a lot of things which just require microscopic detail, much more precision. And some things they're cryptic species. That means we can't distinguish them based on their external morphology. Some of them look physically identical. So iNaturalist isn't perfect. It's not going to be a cure-all. You still need experts and sometimes preserved specimens in DNA to distinguish different species. But now I've got the Explore map on there. So this is my neighborhood. All those little location points are where observations have been made. I think the green observations are plants. I think the red might be insects, the blue or something else. I don't recall off the top of my head, but that's what the colors mean. And your map's going to look different. It'll represent where you are in Tuscaloosa or where you are in Alabama or wherever you are in the world. The next map, if you move over to Explore, you can actually click on. So all I changed here was I clicked on, at the top, there are icons. The first one that is for the map. And here I've got, click on the grid version. It'll show you what those observations are that are on your map section. So again, these are mostly all my observations, some of which you've seen there. They've got the American sweet gum there. They've got the rock bristletail, the violets, some other flowers, a spider that I saw at the bottom there. And I'm not going to do it, but if you click on the left tab, that actually will show it in list form with smaller pictures, but more information. So in the Explore tab, you can look at a map view, which you've just seen. You can look at a grid view of the observations or a list view. And you can also, there's also a stats button up there that'll give you numbers based on what's been found up there. And I'm not going to go into that. I'm going to limit what we look at today. So that's the Explore tab. We're next going to move over to Activity, so I'm going to push that over there. I'll take any questions while the screen refreshes.
Yeah, it looks like we don't have any questions right now, but if you do have any questions, you can just submit them in the comment section, and we'll pull them up on the screen, and we can see if we can answer them.
Okay, so now we've got my activity view. So this was done at 7:53 a.m. this morning, so before we did the live cast. But this is where you see the social aspect. So people are commenting on. So my content means this is activity that's only deals with my observation. So this morning, people were suggesting identifications. So someone identified one of my flowers as a Carolina vetch. Someone else suggested an ID for my Trillium photo. Someone for my anemone rue picture. And then there's actually a couple of pictures down there on my feather millipede. So these ones aren't even IDs. People were like commenting, giving me, hey, it says beautiful shots, commented, wow.
Cool.
So you do get feedback there. The other thing I'll point out is your iNaturalist observations, you can actually share them. Once you have an iNaturalist observation, you can post the URL link in Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, and you can share that with your social media friends. So even if you have friends or family that aren't an iNaturalist, you can share your content through those channels as well. And I recommend people do that. There are people that are only on Facebook, only on Instagram, only on Twitter, or only on iNaturalist, but not all four. So that's a great way you can share those. And the nice thing about doing it in iNaturalist first is it has all the metadata saved with it. If you just do it, if you post a picture on Facebook, it doesn't have necessarily all the metadata associated with it, and people can't track it as easily. Next, we'll move to the news section. So again, once you start joining projects, you'll get their news feed, and they're kind of like blog posts. So there's iNaturalist has its own news feed. City Nature Challenge is coming up next month. That's actually, and I've got a project in Birmingham. So that's a news thing I posted about that the project will still be going on, but we'll only be doing it through social distancing. There won't be any organized events.
I'll see if I can pull that up and put it in the comment section.
Okay, I'll probably do a post later today on our Facebook page with a link to the project there, so people that are on iNaturalist can find the project and join it, and actually can contribute it. It's a global project. There are over 200 cities all over the world that originally were going to be competing with each other, who could see the most nature. They've decided now, because some people can't get outside, it's not going to be a competition, but it's still going to be a project where people can engage, and you can actually see what other people are looking at around the world. So it'll be a non-competitive contest, if that makes sense. It's kind of an oxymoron this year. And then next year we'll resume, hopefully, as a full competition.
I mean, it's non-competitive, but don't we kind of want to win?
Well, we actually were challenged by Birmingham, Alabama this year. Actually, Birmingham, UK. So they'll probably challenge us again next year. So hopefully we'll be training a crop of new people this year that next year, when it comes time for the City Nature Challenge, they can participate, and we can probably compete directly again with Birmingham, UK, to see which metro area can generate more nature observations.
Yeah, that's really cool.
So let's move. So suppose you want to make an observation. So I'm waiting till it refreshes here, but I'm pulling up the Observe tab. So the next little icon, little camera icon at the bottom of your screen. There it goes. So this looks a lot like your camera app. And from here, you can actually do observations with no photo. A lot of times with birds, I'll see the bird and I'll recognize it, but I can't take a picture of it quick enough. I can do a casual observation by just clicking no photo, and it'll pull up the observation window where I can identify, and I will put in a potential observation. Yep. I'll try to do that at the end about the artificial intelligence. You can also, if you enter camera roll, you may already have pictures on your iPhone of a bug, or if you take them in the future and it's quicker for you to pull up your photo app, you can pull them from there. That's the right tab. If you click the green button, it'll open up your camera if you grant it permissions. And so I walked out this morning, and there's an American holly bush outside. So it's a little blurry photo of an American holly tree that has red berries on it. So if I wanted, I could have clicked that red button and captured that picture, and then pulled up an iNaturalist screen and made a determination for it. Or, as Kendra said, I could let iNaturalist suggest. iNaturalist has the ability, once your picture's been uploaded, it can use its computer algorithms to suggest what it might be. So I'm probably not know if I'm going to demo that during the live feed, but it's something you can definitely do. iNaturalist will suggest things, and it's now in its third generation of the algorithm, and it gets better and better. And this is really going to be, it's almost like Shazam for nature photos. And while it's not perfect, it's getting better and better. And I encourage you to try it. So usually for really common things, it works really well. For less common things, like it may have a harder job. But again, you can also, even if it isn't identified, the community can help, by the algorithm, the community of iNaturalist users can. So I'll make an effort to go through all the new iNaturalist images that come in while we're home alone, or actually necessarily not home alone, but home with our families.
Yeah.
And try to help. Like I'll sometimes bump things, because the thing about iNaturalist is you might not get the species identified the first time. I might identify it as a plant, but someone will bump it to, oh, it's a flowering plant. Oh, it's an ivy. So sometimes it's a stepwise process. You don't always get from point A, unknown, to point B, species identified research grade. You'll go through multiple steps. So don't worry. Like I said, you'll get better at this with practice. And sometimes observations will sit for years, but they still get identified. And then I have things which never get identified. So I don't consider those failures. They're just opportunities where the right person hasn't looked at my observation yet. But more common things, I think you stand a really good chance for either iNaturalist using its artificial intelligence to identify it, or myself or someone else that's an iNaturalist user to come along and put a species identification, or at least a more detailed identification on it for you. Okay, we're back. So the next one, because I was working left to right from the little icons at the bottom, back to this is the starting page. So again, you can go back there. Yep, Plant Snap, that's another one. Yeah, there are other plants. We'll probably, through our social media channels, I'll do little individual Facebook posts and Twitter posts about other apps. eBird is great for birds. I mentioned we all did the Merlin app a little bit earlier. Plant Snap works really well for identifying leaves and flowers. So there are lots of other platforms. iNaturalist is not the only one, but iNaturalist is probably the most versatile, because you can do everything from living bacteria to birds, mammals, everything in between. It really allows you. Other platforms are a little more specific. Plant Snap only works with plants. eBird only works with bird observations. So they kind of, there's a little bit of overlap, but there's certainly room for everybody for doing it. And I encourage you, there's some people that love eBird. If you're really into birding, eBird is definitely something you want to explore. iNaturalist probably is not the best platform unless you've got a camera feeder where you're constantly getting pictures at your feeder of birds. Dragonfly ID, how could I forget? This is actually something that John Abbott and Kendra Abbott here at the University of Alabama Museums have developed. It's a citizen science project where you can report your dragonfly observations. And I should point out, there are people that get bored with birds and move to dragonflies. So that's the other thing too. A lot of the same skill sets that you develop for birding can be applied to dragonflies. So that's actually kind of a homegrown project that John Abbott can definitely answer questions about. And we have a dragon expert on staff here who can. I'm not an expert, so when I have a dragonfly question, I'll try iNaturalist, and if I don't get what I need, I next turn to Dr. John Abbott, my colleague. And then there's the More tab. So that's a little bit. I'll just go over this briefly. There are projects and guides. So I mentioned projects already. If you click on the project tab, it'll pull up here, and the next screen you'll see is a list of projects that are nearby to me. So I mentioned there are literally thousands of projects. I've created a bunch of them, but just in my neighborhood, I pulled up a project for Mooney Circle Park here. It's a para park in Tuscaloosa. Someone else, not me, created a biodiversity of Tuscaloosa County project. This Tuscaloosa Academy has a flora and fauna project. We have a University of Alabama campus biodiversity survey project that I created. There's a University of Alabama biodiversity survey. Some of these you can even have redundant projects. It looks like these projects overlap. There's a BioBlitz. and you can create your own projects. So that's a really neat thing. You can actually search for, like, if you just wanted butterflies, you can pull up a butterfly page. If you just wanted moths, for example, there's a Moths of Alabama. You can do that. And once you join a project, they will start appearing in your list here. And then the final thing I'll point out in the app are guides. And again, when you get more advanced, you can actually create your own guides. These are ones here. John Abbott created one for trees in Manville Archaeological Park, one of UA Museum's parks. I generated these kind of ones. They're really simple to make. They're sometimes limited to 500 different species, but I did one for mammals of Alabama, birds of Alabama, butterflies of Alabama, amphibians. The mollusk one is a work in progress, but you can actually make ones for yourself. You can make a guide to things of your neighborhood. And when you create this, iNaturalist gives you tools. If you have a list of species, it'll pull out pictures and information from Wikipedia and then literally kind of generate your own guide on the fly. So Wikipedia being kind of open source, it ties into a lot of other open source projects. eLife, Wikipedia, it really is amazing how it pulls information together. And like I said, you can create guides, new guides and new projects once you're familiar with iNaturalist in really short order. And is it kind of a little more advanced, but it's definitely something you can do. So I think that's the last. Actually, I'll pull up the butterflies of Alabama. So I forgot. I wanted to have a little bit of a picture. I like eye candy. I think it shows up well, particularly on the eye stream.
Yeah.
But people love butterflies. I saw an eastern tiger swallowtail butterfly yesterday when I stepped outside my porch. So butterflies are starting. Not all of them are active yet, but there definitely are butterflies out there now. So on your screen now is if I clicked on that Butterflies of Alabama guide there, you could click on individual pictures. It'll pull up a more detailed page with all that text and even a link to observations. So that's what a guide would look like. You really can't create guides through the app. You have to do it online. But if you do it through a web browser, you can easily create new guides. I'll put a little plug in here for Seek. So if you have kids, and great, Catherine pointed out that actually people in the know that butterflies are actually just day-flying moths. And there are many more moths. People get excited about butterflies, but there are orders of magnitude more moths. And some of us, I may be biased, think they're actually some of them are more beautiful than the butterflies. So thanks for reminding us about that, Catherine. But Seek, again, if iNaturalist isn't you don't want to basically register for an iNaturalist account, you want something that's kind of just download and go, try Seek. It literally is like Pokemon Go for you and the kids. Once you download it, when you turn it on, you don't need an account. It may ask to use your location, but once you do that, it'll pull down a map and suggest for you a challenge. It'll list things, hey, what flowers, what insects, what birds, and what animals are in my neighborhood. And once you do that, you'll get a stream like this. So I just did it this morning, and it'll be up here in a second. For people in Tuscaloosa, it'll probably be very similar. I opened up Seek, and I said, I'm interested in species that are in Tuscaloosa. So it knew I was in Tuscaloosa. I was entering all species, and there's actually a list. If I could scroll to the right, the first thing up there is a red buckeye. So this is a blooming plant that I've seen in my neighborhood. It's in my backyard. It's one of the first flowering plants. Because it's a red flower like this, it's one of the first plants that hummingbirds that are returning feed upon. The next bird is also a bird I've seen here, the American robin. And you could pick this from that pick list. I could choose just all plants. So, and as you do this, you get points. So much like Pokemon, if you're familiar with Pokemon, Seek will be really simple for you to learn. So you can take your kids outside right now with the Seek app and do a little Pokemon, but you'll be looking. So what happens in here is you actually do take a picture. And when you take that picture, iNaturalist will use its artificial intelligence to match it. And if you take a good enough picture of a red buckeye plant, it'll say correct. If you have a blurry photo, it might miss it and say maybe try again. So it's a great way to start. And once you kind of want to start actually submitting your own observations or species that Seek isn't showing you, iNaturalist is the way to go. So Seek is kind of I would say the trainer version. You can it's got little training wheels on it. You can start on that, and once you get good with the other thing too is it takes a while for you to tune into nature. A lot of people say, "Oh, there's nothing in my backyard. There's no wildlife. There's no flowers." I guarantee you're wrong. You just have to go out and reconnect with nature. There are so many common weeds. I mean, I literally, if you have a yard, if you just have any wild area you can get to, you just zone out. You may hear, zone out the planes, the lawnmowers. You'll hear birds. You'll hear birds activity. Birds are calling now before the sun comes up. There are birds everywhere. Sometimes you can see them. You can almost certainly hear them. There are insects everywhere. There are carpenter bees all around. Anywhere there's flowers, there will be insects out that are pollinating them. I saw a hoverfly yesterday, or bee fly, excuse me, that looks like a bumblebee. So find the flowers, and you will find bugs. Flip over flower pots, things that are out in your yard. You'll find roly-polies, millipedes, centipedes, other insects, termites. If you go out in your garage or in your basement, if you have one, you'll find spiders. Most of the spiders outside right now are juveniles. They're really tiny, but I've seen jumping spiders. I know I know there's places in my house I go in now where I could find house spiders and cellar spiders, which are kind of species which live with people, and we find them all throughout our homes. Nature is everywhere. The joke is you're never more than about 3 feet away from a spider or some kind of arthropod, and that is so true.
Yeah, Megan says outside today on our porch, I thought my partner was playing a Birds iTunes station, but it was real life. Tons of birds outside. That's so funny. I went for a walk this morning as well, and I'm still trying to learn all this stuff since I've started working with the museums. And I was concentrating on it, so I was hearing more birds than if I was just listening to my earbuds on my iPhone. I could hear the birds out this morning, and it was awesome.
Yeah, Rebecca, I'm going to go back to one page here. There's a stat I realized that I thought was amazing.
Okay.
I guess hopefully people be wowed by it. But let me get back. So I'm going to, in a second here, the project page for my neighborhood project. So this is my neighborhood in Tuscaloosa. I forget how many homes are in it. There's probably I would say there's probably less than 200 homes in it. They're over, and they're only separate. I've observed over 1,000 species, 1,100 species, and I know about 800 of these, probably close to 900, are just moths that I've recorded from my front porch. And of course, this has been going on for several years, and I put a black light outside my front porch this time of year, I can get dozens of different species of just moths. Occasionally you may have things that come in here. There are Mediterranean geckos, which are an introduced lizard species that come in. I will get spiders that'll come in. So I'll be outside. Sometimes I'll see armadillos. I'll hear owls at night. I mean, nature 24/7. I don't care where you live in Alabama. There is nature all around you. And now that you're home, it's a great time, to plug out. If you get outside, get some fresh air, get some sunshine. But while you're out there, just start reconnecting with nature. Sometimes you can just sit in one spot. And I was amazed yesterday. I was literally, when I was photographing some insects in some leaf litter, all the ants that were out, carpenter ants were out, jumping spiders, wolf spiders. I could just sit in one space, and there were dozens of species I could observe just without moving from that spot. So, the one thing I'm hopeful is, despite all the hardships we're facing being home, because of this COVID-19 situation, is that it really gives people an opportunity to slow down a little bit, step outside, like I said, get some fresh air. It's springtime in Alabama. It's not too hot yet. The pollen's out there, so if you have allergies, you may suffer a little bit. But there is nature everywhere, and it kind of just gives you a way for you and your families. I love taking my son out. When I see something, pointing, he's learning his colors, so I'll point out the colors of flowers. So it's a great opportunity for you and your families to engage in a really positive activity. And you're learning about the things that are in your backyard, and the things you're doing that you're submitting are becoming data points that potentially will help us track. Flowers, I'll go in and I'll note when you submit a flower that's in bloom, you're helping people document climate change because you're now saying certain things are blooming. And it's not sometimes just what species you're seeing, it's what they're doing that I'm coming to realize. So there are people who use your data and your observations in ways you never realized. So it's really, I just like that kind of aspect of it. Sometimes I'm just curious. I want to share my pretty photos, or I want to figure out what a species is. But iNaturalist also might allow, and I've had scientists contact me for information. It's just like, wow, next time you see one of those, could you collect it and send it to me? I'm doing a new scientific study and could use a DNA sample or an insect specimen or a plant specimen. So it's amazing. There really is a social aspect of it. I've made connections with people all over the world through iNaturalist. And sometimes your expert might not even be local. It may be someone who is retired and moved outside the U.S. or maybe living in California. So it really is a social network. So that's the other thing so for some of you, if you stick with it, you'll be amazed at the connections. A year from now, you come back and say, the things I got involved in or people I made connections with, wildflower groups, master gardeners. There's so many connections you can make through iNaturalist. So I'm happy to kind of turn it over to questions, Rebecca, if people have them. I'll go back. I'm just going to move the screen back to our first so there's a little screen up on there. Or let me do this so people want to go to iNaturalist.
Yeah, let's see. I can also pull that up as well. Yeah, if anybody has any questions about the app or how to use it or how to identify things out in nature, I definitely have had to learn how to pay attention to things. A lot of times when I go outside, I don't pay attention as much to nature. So it's using iNaturalist has really opened my eyes, and I did it a couple of times and got hooked. So I'm always now when I go out for walks, I definitely pay more attention. So I highly recommend it, even though I'm not as much of an expert as Dr. Friel here. So I highly recommend it.
You don't have to be. I think Rebecca, you're a perfect example. You're not a biologist. You have I don't think your background's in communications, not in science.
Yeah.
But you work with several coworkers, John Abbott, myself, and others who have different areas of expertise and have biology training. But that's the whole thing. And you can connect them to your workplace. But in iNaturalist, there's probably other people you've never met that have helped identify your species. So that's what's amazing about it. It really connects people. We live in a time now where we have this incredible technology on our smart devices. We can collect data. We can interact with people, tap into all kinds of resources. So, and I know you like to go outside for health reasons and walk around and get some fresh air. It's a great way. Sometimes I see people I have people in my neighborhood I know who are the power walkers. And I need to stop them and say, hey, if you see something cool, because I have had neighbors sometimes where they'll post something. I remember last year someone found a scarlet king snake, which I haven't seen. It's a kind of coral snake mimic snake. And when I saw it, it was like, I was like, I got to find this. I couldn't go. Something had taken it. They had actually put it on a tree. It was dead. And something scavenged it before I got to it. But I sometimes just look at my neighborhood. It's like, what are other people seeing? I sometimes offer my neighbors. We do have venomous reptiles here in Alabama, and I've made connections with neighbors who now I tell them, contact me if you have a copperhead or a timber rattlesnake shows up in your backyard. Let me know. I'll come over and I will remove it safely for you. Or if you have a snake that's stuck in your garage. So I offer that service to my neighbors. I have a background. I know how to safely handle snakes. So it's just amazing how you connect with your neighbors. And once they know that that is, I want to train a bunch of people. So I'm training some of you today how to use iNaturalist. Hopefully some of you will be so engaged by it. You'll want to train your neighbors, maybe friends and other social groups you're into. So the idea is, the whole thing about nature for me, I came at nature from the science side. But as I've gotten older, I realized you have to engage people socially. That's why social media is so popular. And this is just, I can't think of any real detriment. It's healthy. It gets you outdoors. It reconnects you with the natural world. And there's a social aspect of you can engage people on a social level, encourage each other. You can have a contest with your friends, like who has the most iNaturalist observations. People love, how many steps did you walk today for your exercise? You can track how many people do challenges. You can do just your own challenge. I'm going to do one nature observation a day. or one action a week, whatever it is. And you can set these little goals for you or your family, engage your kids. Maybe, you're doing multiple things from home. But maybe one of the activities you can do with your kids is they have a time slot. Maybe they have half an hour. They can go outside with your phone, take a picture, and maybe you can help them upload it and make an observation with them every day, and then maybe discuss what you found. Look at, I found this type of insect. What does it eat? And just have that activity with your kids, whether it's once a day, once a week. We want to help you engage with that. And if there's anything we can do to help that, leave a comment. My email, if anyone wants to email me, is I'll probably post it somewhere. It's just J as in John, P as in Patrick, FRIEL, my surname, at ua.edu. And I'll be more than happy to reply to you. If you go to the museum website, you can find my information there, or for any of other staff, Rebecca, John Abbott. We're here to help you. I mean, the idea is we're working from home too, and this is one of the services. Oh, thanks, Rebecca, for putting it up there. But we're more than help to do it. And as long as we do it remotely via email, I have the capability to do Zoom, other teleconferencing, Skyping from home. So I might be even willing for small groups. If I could even do this on a smaller scale remotely for some groups. So if you had a group that wanted to do something like this again, school groups, please reach out to us. I think there's all kinds of opportunities. This is probably going to be going on for weeks, potentially months. I know the schools are out now for the year, so we really want to help you. If you can't come visit us on the campus of the University of Alabama or any of our other museums, we want to interact with you remotely. And I love nature. I love getting outdoors. So this is the kind of thing I'm really passionate about, and we'll do whatever I can to enable you, your families, to engage with nature.
All right, John, we've been going for about an hour, and I know we could talk about this stuff all day, but maybe we should wrap it up here and
Sure.
End the stream. But so that's going to do it for this first installment of Museums from Your Home, this live stream series that we are starting at UA Museums. And we'll be doing this same kind of thing every weekday, Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. We'll gather at different museum Facebook pages, and we'll feature a different museum every day. So on Mondays, our next one is going to be Moundville. So on Monday, you will go to the Moundville Archaeological Park Facebook page, like you did today with the Alabama Museum of Natural History. And we will be probably talking about history. So we'll see how history is dealt with over at Moundville, how they embrace telling the story of the history of Moundville. So if you are interested in that, definitely check us out on Monday. And for a full live stream schedule to find out what's going on each day. And we also have links to Discovering Alabama's online educational resources, including their free episodes and teacher guides. You can find our live stream schedule. You can find all of those educational resources at museums.ua.edu/museums from your home. And I'll actually put that up here so that people can see it if they want to go visit the link. But you can click on that link and it will give you all of our information about this new venture we're experimenting in to try to interact and engage with people who can't go to our museums. We can't even go to our museums. And so this is a great way to still bring the museums of the University of Alabama to everybody at home and still provide some educational content and have a lot of fun. I think a lot of the things that the museums do are a lot of fun, and I'm certainly learning a lot. I've certainly learned a lot from you, John, this morning. So I think we will wrap it up here, but definitely join us back on Monday to talk about Moundville.
Okay, thanks, everybody. Thanks, Rebecca. And I said, reach out to me. You've got my email address. I'm going to be spending some more time on iNaturalist, my own observations, but I'll be looking out for new observations coming in from all of you. And I'll do my best to kind of help you identify them. But again, I want to connect with you, through this media. So I think it's a really great opportunity. And then I said, this is the first of many, and there'll probably be additional ones. If you have ideas that you want me to cover, if there's nature-related things, leave those in the comments as well for future live streaming episodes. I'd love to hear some new ideas and give me a little heads up to prepare for them. So thanks, everybody. Thanks, Rebecca.
Awesome. Well, we will see you all on Monday to talk about Moundville. Have a great day.